Today on the Golden Bolt, we're going to start the Kirby's Dream Collection Marathon with Kirby's Dream Land on the Game Boy. Kirby is the brainchild of Masahiro Sakurai. Yeah, that Sakurai. If you ever wondered why there's so much Kirby influence in Smash Bros., there's your answer. Sakurai wanted to create a game to counteract the common trend of making games difficult just for the sake of being difficult, and this adorable little blob was his answer. However, the pink puffball wasn't actually intended to be the main character, he was just a placeholder until the team at HAL Laboratory could think of something better. Something better never came though, as the team actually grew fond of the adorable little guy and stuck with him, and they gave him the name we all know and love today, Popopo. Wait, what? Oh yeah, they named him Popopo for a bit, and the game was going to be named Twinkle Popo. But eventually, and thankfully, the name Kirby came to them instead. There's one more thing I want to add, and it's a fun little note about everybody's favorite uncle, Miyamoto. Sakurai envisioned Kirby as pink, but Miyamoto insisted that he'd look better in yellow. The two went back and forth on this very minor detail for a while, even after the game launched in Japan, with a pink Kirby already on the cover. Nintendo of America decided to ignore the conflict entirely, choosing to go with a white Kirby to match the Game Boy's lack of color. Yellow Kirby did make it into games later on down the road though, as well as in Super Smash Bros. As his first alternate color. Kirby is a resident of Dreamland, a small kingdom on the planet known as Popstar. The people of Dreamland are minding their own business when the evil King Dedede decides to send his minions down to steal all of the land's food, as well as the 5 sparkling stars that Dreamlanders use to find food. Kirby, the living garbage disposal that he is, decides that enough is enough and vows to reclaim all of the stolen food and the sparkling stars and stop Dedede. And he does. That's the plot. Actually, almost none of this is mentioned in-game either. All of this stuff is from the manual. Dreamland is a 2D platformer where you play as the pink, white fluffball himself through 5 different levels. On its own, that sounds pretty run-of-the-mill for the 90s, but Dreamland and the Kirby series as a whole is sort of an antithesis to the usual platformer design of that era. Oftentimes, you'd see games that were hard just for the sake of being hard, and to add playtime. Kirby is insanely easy and insanely short. Many platformers tended to be narrow in scope, featuring one-shot levels with a relatively linear A to B path. Kirby masked its path by including multiple rooms almost akin to Mario USA, with a lot of goodies hidden throughout to make you feel like you were exploring a world rather than just playing a game. It's odd, and I will be the first to admit that my first time playing a Kirby game, this didn't really click with me. I didn't look at Kirby as a counter to the platforming norms as much as I saw it as a platformer that was different for the sake of being different. Let me dive into the specifics on these points for a moment. First, its ease and length. Dreamland is ridiculously short. My total playtime was about 40 minutes, and I could easily see myself shaving 10 or 15 minutes off if I were more careful. There's no difficulty here unless you force it upon yourself. Rushing through a level, taking hits because, oh, it's Kirby, this game is easy, will get you killed. Trust me, I made that mistake myself. Thankfully, if you die, the game sets you right back to the start of the room that you're in, rather than starting the whole level over. It's easy to fall into that trap of, oh, it's Kirby, it's easy though, because all of the mechanics welcome that sort of mindset. For example, Kirby has infinite jumps. You can almost always fly over any enemies or obstacles in your path if you'd like. The only times that you can't are during the boss fights, which are like the rest of the game, easy, albeit really unique. One's a side-scrolling bullet hell shooter, one's this chaotic fight with an angry cloud, one's a... That's a tree. That's a tree. If you do want to fight enemies head-on though, you can fall on them from the sky, suck up some air with the B button and spit it at them, or suck the enemies themselves up and shoot them back out at other enemies. Hell, you can even press down on the D-pad while you have an enemy in your mouth to absorb the unique power of that enemy. Huh? Oh, that's right, that's not in this game. That's something they introduced in the next game, Kirby's Adventure. With that in mind, there really isn't an incentive to fight things other than to up your score, which doesn't get saved if you turn the game off because the game has no save feature. But it's entirely up to you. Everything about Dreamland is built in to let you play the game how you want, rather than how the developers intended, and this is kind of unique for the time. And this is shown with the second point, that Kirby is almost a non-linear, linear game. Rather than focus on one big level like World 1-1 in Super Mario Bros. Or Green Hill in Sonic, Kirby segments its experience into different rooms, and it does a lot in these rooms. Sometimes there are rooms that are totally optional that just give you some health, a power-up, or an extra life. other times there's a maze of doors you have to work through to get to the end of that level. No matter what, switching rooms often totally changes the vibe of the level you're in, making these 5 short levels feel meatier and more significant than the 5 minutes or so that they last. It's a strange feeling when I'm enjoying myself and then I look at my playtime to see it's only been 10 minutes when it feels like a lot longer. Strange, but in this case, good. There are a few issues that I have though. For one, 5 levels really isn't something that can cut it no matter how long the levels feel. Even more so considering the 5th level just has you running through truncated or slightly different chunks of the first 4 levels before fighting that level's boss again. Additionally, I wasn't a fan of both up and the A button being jump, because pressing up is also the button for entering doors. It feels a bit unnecessarily sluggish when I want to enter the next room and instead Kirby would jump. This last one is a bit of a nitpick, but I sort of wish there was more utility to the power-ups because it took me a long time to figure out what a few of them did. I ran into enemies at first thinking this was an invincibility power-up, but it turns out it just let me shoot air pellets faster. Cool. It's worth mentioning too that when you beat the game, you're told a code that unlocks Extra Mode, which is just the same game again except everything really wants to kill you. Enemies move faster, some patterns change, it's essentially there to add game length for those that want to go through the trouble. I got a game over on the first level. I didn't care to go through the trouble. I think the foundation is really enjoyable here. I like the enemy variety and level design by themselves, but the length of the experience plus the absolute lack of levels makes it tough to praise critically speaking. So for the gameplay, I'm gonna have to give Dreamland a bronze bolt. I honestly feel that this might be one of the best looking original Game Boy games out there. I'll probably be eating those words once I get to Dreamland 2, since that's also on the Game Boy, but whatever. The backgrounds of these levels absolutely shock me that they ran without lagging on the system. Much. If there are too many enemies on screen, the frame rate does tank a little bit, but that doesn't happen often. They're so detailed despite only having a few colors to work with on the original Game Boy screen, and they change so frequently even within singular levels, it's insanely impressive. Almost too impressive at times, because there was a point where I died because I couldn't tell where the foreground and background split up, so I jumped into a pit thinking there was land there. Oops. Likewise though, there are so many different enemy types in this game, which is so unique for a Game Boy game to me. There's somewhere near 50 different styles of enemy in this game. That's almost 2 unique enemies per minute. Just wow. This game just has so much visual charm, it hurts. From segments like this, where Kirby is shot out of a whale into the next part of a level as a transition, to these little starting scenes that preface each level, it makes you identify with Kirby quickly even though he's literally just a circle. Combine that with how charming the music is, and boy are we in for a good time. The soundtrack is probably what distinguishes each level the most for me. Each level looks visually distinct, but the music here gives each section its own soul, its own beating heart that drives you forward through the levels like blood through the game's veins. Why am I making a metaphor about blood here in a Kirby game? That's weird. It's all so catchy and it fits how cute and expressive this game is. Again, I just wish there were more of it. With what we see here though, there's so much variation and I've gotta give credit where it's due. Dreamland earns a golden bolt for its presentation, with the caveat that I'd really like to have seen more. Kirby is a game you should let yourself get absorbed into, not a game you play just for the sake of playing a game. The best way I can describe it is that it's a chill game. You play it, turn off your brain for a little bit, and just have fun with how amazingly charming it is for the short time that it lasts. However, because of that short runtime, I can't honestly say I'd recommend this game to first-time Kirby players. I think Dreamland's a game you'd enjoy most after you're already familiar with the series. If you do want to pick it up and you've got an old Game Boy or Game Boy Advance lying around, you can find Dreamland online for about $10. Alternatively, you can grab the Dream Collection on Wii like I did, which runs about $30 to $40 on average. And that, by the way, comes with all 6 of the games I'll be reviewing for this retrospective. If you want it cheap and don't mind getting it digitally, it's $4 on the 3DS eShop. And with one game down in our Kirby's Dream Collection Marathon, we have 6 more to go, so join me next time when we tackle Kirby's Adventure on the Nintendo Entertainment System. As always, thanks for watching everybody, and stay golden. Have you ever wanted to chat with me about a game I reviewed, or maybe about games in general? You should check out the official Golden Bolt Discord server. I'm pretty much there all the time, and you can chat with me or your fellow Golden Bolt viewers. The link is in the description.